Good morning and welcome to Mobile Device Manager Plus training program. I hope I'm audible and you're able to view the presentation. Please confirm by commenting on chat. Now that I have received a few confirmations, I will start off. This is a 2-week training program that will help you get familiar with all the capabilities that Mobile Device Manager Plus has to offer. And we are in week 2 today. Today, we will be dealing with app management and device security. I am Harshita Sharma, Product Specialist for Mobile Device Manager Plus, and I will be your trainer for today. So let's have a quick view at the agenda for today. We will start off with the overview of Mobile Device Manager Plus. This training program has been arranged in a problem solution approach that will help us understand the features using real-time scenarios. Firstly, we will be seeing how to install and manage business apps. Next, we will see how we can log down devices to particular apps. We will also be seeing how Mobile Device Manager Plus allows us to secure data and devices. This will be followed by a few scenarios and their solutions. In case you have any questions, please feel free to ask us in chat. We have an expert panel who will answer these questions immediately. These questions will be discussed at the end of the training for the benefit of other users. Mobile Device Manager Plus allows us to manage tablets and mobile devices running on iOS, Android, and Windows operating systems. Mobile Device Manager Plus is available as an add-on to Desktop Central, as a standalone on-premises product, as well as on cloud. So let's understand the Mobile Device Manager Plus architecture. It consists of 3 main components: the server, the notification services, and the devices to be managed. The server uses these notification services like APNS, GCM, and WNS to wake these devices up. These devices then contact the server for information and tasks that is to be performed. So since the devices that we are managing are mobile, the server must be reachable at all times. For that, we recommend you to NAT your internal IP address to a public IP address. In case you do not wish to expose your server to the internet, we also allow you to configure a forwarding server. This forwarding server acts as an intermediary between the server and the internet and is the one that is exposed. If you're using the cloud version of Mobile Device Manager Plus, you do not need to worry about any of these settings. For smooth communication between the server and the devices, a few ports need to be opened. For communication between the devices and the MDM server, the inbound port 9383 should be opened. For communication between the MDM server and the notification services, the ports 2195 and 443 should be opened. Similarly, for communication between the devices and notification services, these are the outbound ports that need to be opened. These ports need to be opened only if your devices are behind a firewall. So the first thing we will be dealing with is the installation and management of business apps. So let's say I'm an IT administrator of an organization with a predominantly mobile-only workforce. So most of my employees perform their routine tasks using mobile devices. In that case, I need to ensure that these devices have all the required applications and they are up to date. So for that, I will be using Mobile Device Manager Plus. So let me show you how it works. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to create an app repository. This app repository contains both the store apps as well as the enterprise apps. Store apps are the ones that are available on the App Store and Play Store, whereas enterprise apps are the ones that are specific to particular organizations and are not available publicly. So once I have created my app repository, the next step is to distribute these apps to the devices that I'm managing. So the installation of enterprise apps is done through the MDM server, whereas in the case of store apps, it is taken care by the respective stores. So now that we have seen how it works, let me show you how we can perform these steps on the server. So log into the console using your credentials and click on Device Management. So the first step is I will be adding apps to my repository. So under Manage, click on App Repository and click on this button, Add Apps. As you can see, we have an option to add both store as well as enterprise apps for various operating systems. So I will be doing it for an iOS store app. So I will click on App Store app. So the app here that I will be adding is Zoho CRM. So the server will contact the App Store and get the details. So once I have found the app, I can click on it. So as you can see, the bundle identifier and the Apple Store ID get automatically filled. So in case you're not based in the US and you want to change the region, you can do so over here. There are a few app policies that need to be applied on these applications. The first is remove app on MDM profile removal. What this particular option does is that when a device becomes unmanaged, this app gets automatically removed from this device. The second, since these apps have access to corporate data, we need to restrict the backup of app data. So now, we can also push the app configurations when we are distributing these apps to devices. This can be done only if it is provisioned by the app developer. To push these configurations, we need to upload an XML file. So once you have done all this, you can click on Save. So once you click on Save, the app will get added to our repository. So as you can see here, the app has been added into my repository. The next step that I have to do is to distribute this particular app to my devices. So I click on Groups and Devices and go to the Devices tab and select a particular device to which I'm going to distribute this app. So for distributing it, it is always recommended to distribute it to one particular device and test it before we distribute it to all the devices in my organization. So I will choose this particular device and click on Distribute App. So I will select the app now. We have two distribution options available. The first is notify end user by email after app distribution. So what this does is when we have distributed the app, it will notify the user to complete the installation process. So here I will be enabling this option. So this other option we will be discussing in some time. So I click select and now the app has been distributed to the device. So let me see what the status is. So click on the name and go to apps. As you can see, the Zoho CRM app has been distributed and it is yet to apply on the device. So let me show you how you can perform these steps on the device. So now the app on the device will get listed under the app catalog in the yet to install category. So once we click on the install option, it will ask us to enter our iTunes credentials. Once we have performed that, the installation will get initiated. Once the installation is completed, the app will move from the yet to install category into the installed category and will be available on the device. So this app status will also be available on the server. So let me show you how you can see that. So we can go back to Groups and Devices and choose the device to which you want to see the status. So now I will open another app and show you. So when we go back to app, here as we can see, this particular app has been installed and it shows as succeeded. So this is how you can see the status of the app distribution. So now that I have distributed this application to one device, I need to install this particular application to all the devices in my organization. But I cannot use this particular method because I need to provision every device with an iTunes account. And the second is that I have to manually complete the installation process. So instead, Mobile Device Manager Plus has a few automated app installation methods. So for iOS devices, we have the VPP, and for Android devices, we have the Play for Work method. So we will be discussing both of these options But let me start off with the volume purchase program. So Apple's VPP is a portal that allows us to purchase enterprise apps in bulk and distribute it to our devices. So there are a few prerequisites that need to be met before we can use this program. So the first is that we need to create an account with Apple VPP. The next is that these devices must be supervised. So the supervision of devices can be performed using Apple Configurator or Apple DEP as discussed in the previous session. So let me show you the steps that are involved. So the first thing that you have to do is we need to integrate our VPP with the MDM server. So the next step is to purchase or approve apps from this particular portal. The next is to distribute the apps to the devices. Once these apps have been distributed, they get installed into the devices. So let me show you how we can perform these steps. So again, go to App Repository and click on iOS VPP distribution. I have already created a token, so I will show you how that can be done on another portal. So when you click on iOS VPP, you have to configure it. So once you click on configure, you will have to log into the VPP portal. So when you go to the portal, we will log into the business part. So once we have selected the business, the username and ID will be displayed here. So once you click on it, a drop-down box will appear where we will choose the account summary. Once we click on that, there is an option to download this token. So we have to download this particular token. So once it has been downloaded, it has to be uploaded back on our console. So we go back to our console and click on Upload VPP token. So here, I will choose the token that I had just downloaded. And here, the app installation type will be chosen without Apple ID to ensure silent installation of the applications in the devices. This token will expire in a year and has to be renewed. So provide the email address of the person who will be taking care of this particular renewal. So once you click Save, it will get configured and all the details will be available here as you have seen. Now, the next step that we have to do is we need to purchase our apps from this portal. So for that, we need to go back to our portal and enter the name of the app that we want. So here I will be using Zoho CRM again, and I will click on search. Once you do that, the app will get listed out and we can select this particular app. So once we select it, we need to purchase a few licenses for distributing these apps to devices. But before we can do that, we need to ensure that this particular application is device assignable. This is required for the silent installation of applications. So once you have done that, we can go and purchase the licenses. Licenses are nothing but the number of devices to which I can distribute this application to. So now that I have purchased 100 licenses, I will click on review order. So once this is done, I will place this particular order. So my order is completed and these apps will be available on my console. So once I go back to my console, I can go and sync these apps. So the syncing of apps generally happens once in a day. So the next sync, these apps will get added. So now since I've synced it manually here, the app will be available in my repository. So I'm going to go back to apps. And as you can see, the Zoho CRM app is available. So when you click on it, you will have the number of licenses that you have purchased and the number of the licenses that you have used. So here, as you can see, we have the unused licenses and purchased licenses details. So the next thing that I have to do is to distribute this app to the devices that are available in my organization. So I go back to groups and devices and distribute it to one device before testing it. So here I will go back and I will select a particular application and distribute an app to it. So I will click on distribute app and choose Zoho CRM. Here I will enable the option force install enterprise and VPP apps. What this does is it will lead to the silent installation of this application in my device. So once this is done, this app will get added into my device. So let me show you what happens on the device side. So on the device side, as you can see, the installation will get initiated and completed without any user's interaction. So now, the next thing that we need to ensure is that these apps stay up to date in my devices. So since I have distributed these apps to the devices, I need to ensure that these updates that are available will run smoothly on this particular device. So for that, I will approve the app updates that will be available to my devices. So for that, we can go back and choose a particular app that wants to be upgraded. So for that, I will go back to groups and devices and choose the devices. So here, I will show you the apps. So as you can see, this particular app, Microsoft Word, has an update that needs to be applied. So I can click on this icon to upgrade it automatically. Once I have done that, this app will get upgraded on my device. So in case this upgrade is compatible with my devices, I can push it to all my devices in the organization. So once this is done, we have seen how we can automate the app installation for iOS devices. So we can do the same thing for Android devices as well. But again, we have a few prerequisites that need to be met. So for that, the first thing that we need to do is to create an account with Google Play for Work. The next is that the devices must be running on Android 5.0 and later versions. So let's see how it works. So the first thing we need to do is again integrate the Play for Work with our MDM server. The next is to purchase or approve the apps that we require from Play for Work. The next step is to distribute these apps to the devices. And once that is done, these apps will get installed silently on the devices. So now, let me show you how you can perform this on the server. So go back to your server and click on App Repository. So here also we need to perform a few configurations. As I have already completed here, I will use another portal to show it to you. So on the portal, click on Android for Work. We have two ways of registering with Android for Work. In case your organization has a G Suite account, you can use that for registering. Otherwise, you can also use your Google account to do so. So I will be using my Google account here. So I will click on Register with Cloud G Suite. So once this is done, I will click on Configure Now and will be redirected to the portal. So once I do that, I will have to sign in. So once I have completed the sign in, I need to provide my Google account. Once I have done that, I can get started with the registration. So I need to provide the organization's name here as Zilka. I need to ensure that the enterprise mobility provider or the EMM provider is mentioned as ManageEngine EMM. So once that is done, I will agree to all the terms and conditions and click on Confirm. Once I click on Confirm, I will have to complete the registration process. So click on Complete Registration. Once this is done, you will have all the details available on this tab. So now, the next step I have to do is to purchase the applications from this portal. So I will go back and I will log into the Google Play Store. So once I have done that, I will go and search for the required app. So here also, I'm using the Zoho CRM app and I will search for it. So once the apps get listed out, we will click on it and select it. So here, we will click on Approve. Since this is a free app, we can add it once into our repository and distribute it to as many devices as we want. So once we click Approve, this app will get added to our repository. So for that, we again need to go sync it since the sync happens once in a day. So I will go and click on Sync Apps and click on Sync Play Store Apps. Once this is done, the Zoho CRM app will get added into my repository. So as you can see, the app has been added. So when I click on Zoho CRM, there are a few permissions that are required for the smooth functioning of this particular app. So we can ensure that these permissions are always enabled. So for that, I will go and configure it. So here, the phone app and the contacts as well as the location need to be turned on at all times. The rest of the settings like storage and microphone can either be denied or can be left to the user to decide. So when I click on allow, these three settings cannot be configured again by the user. So once I click save, these permissions have been added. So now I have to go to the groups and devices and distribute this app. So once I do that, again I go back to devices and distribute it. So I will click on this and distribute this app. So Zoho CRM is available here and I will select it. So once this is done, the app will get installed in my device. So let me show you how that will occur. So on our device, first a work account will get created to which this app will get added. So the next step is the installation will automatically get initiated and completed without any user interaction. As you can see, the apps that have been distributed by MDM will get added to this particular work account and will be denoted with a briefcase symbol. So once this is done, these are the settings that I had made in the console. So as you can see, the contacts and location have been turned on and cannot be changed by the user. So now I have seen how I can complete the installation for Android devices. So what are the benefits of configuring VPP and Play for Work? The first is that it allows us to build our own enterprise app repository with only IT approved apps. So these apps can be both Play Store as well as in-house apps. The second is it allows us to restrict users from installing any other app from the store. So now, my organization also makes use of in-house apps or enterprise apps. So do I need a VPP account or a Play for Work account for silent installation? That is not the requirement, but there are a few prerequisites that need to be met. So the first thing is for iOS, the devices must be supervised. Whereas in the case of Android, these devices must either be Samsung or they must be provisioned as device owner. Device owner is the Android equivalent of supervised devices. So if your devices are not provisioned as device owners, you will not be able to perform the silent installation and the user interaction will be required. So let me show you how this can be done. So on our console, we will go and click on App Repository. So here, we will choose to add an app. So I will be choosing to add an Android Enterprise app. So the name of my app is Notes, and I will have to enter the APK file for this particular application. So I will do that. And once I have done, the app details will be fetched automatically. So the bundle identifier will be entered and the app version will also get entered. So once this is done, I need to provide the category of the application and the devices it is supported on. So once this is done, I can click on Save. So once I do that, this app will get added to my repository, as you can see here. So now in case I want to update this particular enterprise app, I can also do so by modifying it. So I select it and I go in under Action, click on Modify App. When I do that, I can choose to edit the APK file. So I will upload the other version of the file. So as you can see, the app version has changed to 2.0 from 1.0. The other category and details will remain the same. Once I click on Save, the app will get added to my repository. So to view it, it will be available here. So now, the installation of this app will happen similar to how the silent installation of other apps have occurred. So now that we have seen how we can silently install applications into the devices, we can move on to our next topic, that is locking devices to specific apps. There are certain organizations which use devices only for specific purposes. So let's say there is a company which deals with logistics. So it has a supervisor who enters all the trip details into a particular app and provides it to the drivers. The drivers then make use of this particular app and another app for navigation. So now, how do we provision these devices for the users? We can use the kiosk mode to provision the devices with either a single app or multiple apps. In addition to this, the kiosk feature also allows us to configure device settings. So let me show you how we can perform these things. So for that, we need to create a profile with the kiosk functionality. So we will go back to Profiles and click on Android profile. So I'm creating this particular profile for Android devices, and it will be for my supervisors first. So I will add kiosk underscore supervisor as my name. So once I have entered that, I can continue. And here I will go to the kiosk option. And the first thing is the supervisor will require only one device for the purpose. So I will choose single app and choose the app that I want to be accessible. So here I will be using Zoho Forms, and I have provided that application. So there are a few device restrictions that also can be monitored from here. So once I click Save and publish it, this profile is ready to be applied to my devices. Now, the next profile I need to create is for my drivers. So I go back and create another Android profile. So here, I name it as kiosk for drivers. So once I have done that, I will click continue and click on kiosk. So here, since the driver requires two apps for functioning, I will go to multiple apps. And the first app is Zoho Forms for getting the trip details. The next application is Google Maps for the navigation purposes. So once we have done that, we can click on Save and create this profile. So once these profiles are ready and published, we can distribute it to our devices. So we go back to Groups and Devices and go to the devices and choose the devices to which we want to distribute the profile. So here, I will first distribute the kiosk supervisor profile and click Select. Once this is done, the next profile to be associated is the driver profile. So once I have selected that, I can click on Select and distribute it to my devices. Now when this profile gets applied to my devices, let me show you what happens on it. So this is the supervisor's device. So as you can see, this app will have only access to this particular application and will not be able to come out of it. So whereas in the case of the driver's device, he can toggle between the two apps that we had selected, the Google Maps as well as the maps which has the trip details. So the next thing we will be dealing with is to secure the corporate data that is present in my devices. So now that we have provisioned our devices for the users and distributed them, they will have access to corporate data. So we need to ensure that the data in our devices are secure and does not lead to any data breach. So we can prevent any data breaches by restricting the data movement from trusted corporate apps to the untrusted personal apps like Dropbox or any other application. Also, we need to restrict the data transfer from a trusted device to an untrusted device. This can be done through a USB or airdropping it. So for that, the most recommended method is containerization. So what happens in containerization is that a device will be segregated into a logical container, one which contains all our personal apps and the other which contains the work apps. So for Android devices, when we add an app using Mobile Device Manager Plus, it by default creates a work profile and gets added to it. So as you can see, the personal apps and the work apps have been segregated and can be identified using this briefcase logo. Whereas in the case of iOS devices, that is not the case. There is no logical containerization that occurs on these devices. This can lead to a lot of problems. Let me show you one of it. So let's say you have an email attachment that needs to be opened on your device. As you can see here, we have an option to use either the personal apps like Dropbox and iBooks for accessing this particular attachment. We also have the corporate apps that can access this attachment. In addition to this, we can also choose to airdrop this attachment to various devices. So this is not feasible since we have access to corporate data. So to ensure that the data is safe, there are a few restrictions that we can add onto the devices that will ensure that this data cannot be transferred. So let me show you how we can do that. So we need to create a profile for that. So click on Profiles and create a new iOS profile. So here I will be naming this as container since that is what we will be achieving. And I click on Continue. So now there are a few restrictions that I will be adding. So click on Restrictions. And under Device Functionality, we need to restrict AirDrop to ensure that the application or the data does not leave our device. Also, we need to ensure that the screen capture is restricted so that the data cannot be saved into the device as well. So next, you click on Security and restrict the data from being shared from Managed tab to Unmanaged tab. And also restrict the data sharing from Unmanaged tab to Managed tab. This will ensure that the unrequired apps will not access the data. So once this is done, we have a few more settings that we can apply. So go to Advanced Security and restrict USB connections. So this way, the data will not be able to leave our device. So once you have done that, you will go to Network and Roaming and also restrict the user from modifying Bluetooth. So this way we have ensured that the data remains secure in our device. So once this is done, we can choose to publish this profile and apply it to our devices as I had already shown you. So let me show you what happens after this profile has been applied to a device. So once you have done that, as you can see here, only the corporate apps can access this particular attachment. We do not have an option to show the unauthorized apps. In addition to that, as you can see, the option for airdropping has also been revoked from the user. So this way, we can ensure that the data is safe in our devices. So our next topic is securing devices. Now that we have ensured that the data in our devices are safe, we also need to ensure that the devices are safe and do not fall into wrong hands. So since the devices have become smaller in size, it increases the risk of them being stolen or lost. So for that, Mobile Device Manager Plus has a few options which can be used in the case a device gets misplaced. So let's assume I have misplaced a device, and let me show you what are the things that you can perform. So you go to Inventory and select the device that has been lost. So I click on John's iPad as my device. So the first thing you will do is to ensure that the device is locked. So you will remote lock the device and show a message on the lock screen. So once the device gets locked, this is the message that will appear on the screen. So once this is done and the device has been locked, nobody will be able to access it. The next thing that we have to do is we need to locate the device and find where it is. So once I have chosen the location and I go to geo tracking and obtain the location of my device. So once I have enabled that, in case the device is nearby and I have found it, I can choose to go and retrieve it. But in case the device is not available anywhere close by and I realize that it has been lost, I can go and enable lost mode. What this does is it displays a message on the screen and allows us to provide our contact details. So once I have provided my contact details, in this case, it will get displayed here. I can also choose to modify the message and provide it based on my requirements. So once I have done that, this will appear on the device. So I click on next. If you have integrated with SDP, you can create a ticket ID for auditing purposes along with a message that the device has been stolen. So once I click on locate, it will initiate the lost mode and it will provide the most accurate location details first. So once I have marked the device as lost, let me show you what happens on the device. So on the device, it will show that the device has been lost along with the message. So in case somebody finds the device and wants to return it back to us, he can click on the call option and call this particular number alone. So once this is done, in case I cannot find the device and nobody has returned the device to me, I need to at least ensure that the data that is on my device cannot be accessed by anybody. So I can choose to either corporate wipe my device, where I will only delete the corporate data that is present in my devices. Whereas in case I want to completely erase the device, I can choose to click on erase data. So once I have done that, the device will be completely wiped and will not have any data on it. In case now you have found the device and you want to unmark it and make use of it, this can be done only if you disable the lost mode option. So for that, you go to modify lost mode and click on stop lost mode. So for stopping lost mode, you need to provide the reason for it. So let's say I have found the device. So I will provide that as my message here. So once I click on stop lost mode, the device will be taken off from the lost mode and we can be able to use the device as we had done before. So this is how Mobile Device Manager Plus allows us to manage devices from enrollment to security. So let's discuss the different scenarios and their solutions now. So my first scenario is that, is there a way by which I can remove apps previously available on the devices? These are the apps that were not pushed by MDM. Yes, so let's say there is an Android device. In these Android devices, we have an application YouTube that is already pre-installed in it. So I do not want my users to be using this application. So I can choose to restrict it. So let me show you how we can do that. So we go back to inventory and click on apps. So here we can choose the app that we want to restrict. So here I will be choosing, let's say, the Food Panda app. So I have selected that app and I will be marking it as blacklisted. So once I mark it as blacklist, if it is a supervised device, this app will get automatically removed from the devices. Whereas in case of other devices, the user will be notified for a predefined number of days. And he will have to uninstall the app from the device. So once you click OK, this app will get blacklisted. So my next scenario is my organization has provided full internet access and no restriction on any web resource to its employees. How can I restrict specific websites without affecting the usual internet traffic? So as we had seen in the earlier case, the YouTube app has been restricted, but we can still access YouTube using the web browser. So we can choose to restrict this particular URL itself. So let me show you how we can do that. We can do that by creating a profile. So I go back to device management and click on profiles. So here I have already created a profile, so I will show it to you. So I will select the profile and I will modify it. So I click on continue. And the next thing that I have to do is select the web content filtering. So here I can choose on blacklist option and select the URL that I want to blacklist. So I have entered the YouTube as well as Facebook to be blacklisted. So once that is done, I can click on Save. In case your organization makes use of only a few websites, then I can choose to whitelist them. So here I can provide the URL of the application that will only have access to. So the device will not be able to access any other websites. So since I was blacklisting it, I will click on that and click Save. So once this is done, I can publish this profile and apply it to my devices as required. So once this has been applied, the devices cannot have access to the URL that we had selected. So my next scenario is that I don't want employees accessing their corporate exchange mailboxes from any device of their choice. Is there any way I can ensure users access exchange mailboxes only from managed devices? So for this, Mobile Device Manager Plus has conditional exchange access. So for this, we have to go and click on conditional exchange access. Most of the organizations have a corporate exchange account, and it has to provide access to the devices in our organization. So, but we also need to ensure that the users access this only from the devices that we are managing, since it has all our corporate data. So we can choose to go and create a policy for conditional exchange access. So once we do that, I will show you how you can create it. So here we can restrict all the devices that are not enrolled with MDM. That means the user will not be able to access our corporate exchange account using any device of his choice. So only the devices that are being managed by MDM will have access. So we can also choose to restrict specific devices which are not enrolled with MDM and select the users of the device. So I will be choosing to restrict all the devices in this case. So now, whenever there is a new employee who joins into my organization, I will have to provide him access. So I can ensure that he is given some time for him to enroll his devices with MDM. So here, you will allow users a grace period to enroll their devices. We can select the number of days we want to provide. So in case you want to provide 5 days, you can do that. So what happens in this grace period is he will be granted access to the Exchange server. And in case he completes his enrollment process, the access will continue. But if he does not enroll his device after that period, the access will get revoked. So for enrolling the device, the user will be sent an URL using which he can self-enroll the devices. So once I click on Apply Policy, this policy will get applied. On the server, we can also see the number of devices which are in each category. So if I have devices that are in grace period, I can view it here. I can also see the restricted devices and the devices that I have given access to my server. So if in case a restricted device wants access, they will have to enroll the devices into our MDM server. So my next scenario is, as my workforce is extensively mobile only, we want to secure devices with certificates. Can this be done using Mobile Device Manager Plus? So we can choose to use certificates for authentication. So since this is a more secure method and it's preferred everywhere. So I will show you how you can configure it. So for that, we need to create a profile. So I will go click on Profiles and show you how this can be done. So I will choose this particular profile and modify it. So I click on Continue. So here, in case you have one particular certificate that has already been authorized, so you can select that certificate and upload it here. So this certificate will get distributed to all the devices in your organization to which you apply this profile. So once you have entered the certificate details, they will be available here. So you can click on save. But in case you want to distribute different certificates for every device, you can integrate your MDM server with the certificate authority server. So what this does is every time you request a certificate, they will provide a new certificate for every device. So for that, you will have to enter your server URL and also choose the key size for your certificate. So once you have provided all the details, this will get saved. So once this is done, all the devices you distribute this profile to will obtain different certificates based on their requirements. So I will click on publish and apply this profile to all my devices. So the next thing I have to do is my next scenario. So the next scenario is my enterprise network bandwidth gets affected when several employees try to update their operating systems simultaneously. How can I prevent this? So for that, let me show you how this can be done. So for that, for iOS devices, you will have to create a profile. So let me show you how this can be done. So I will select it, and under actions, I will modify it. So I click on modify profile and click on continue. So here, the first thing I have to do is to configure the global HTTP proxy. So global HTTP proxy is nothing but it will route all the accesses through a particular proxy. So any access that you try to make will be routed to this particular proxy server. So once you have provided the details, you will have to click save. So now when we have created this proxy, we need to go and restrict the URLs that are required for updating the operating systems. So once we restrict it, none of the devices can access it. You can also choose to regulate the number of devices that can make use of that particular website based on the bandwidth. So the next thing, for Android devices, we can directly choose to apply a restriction on the device that will stop the user from updating it. So here I will go to restrictions, and under applications, I will choose to stop the installation of applications. So once you restrict that, this will click on save and publish it. So now this brings us to the end of the scenario. So we will be discussing the questions that have been asked to us on this particular training. So give me a few seconds for me to update the presentation with these questions. So now once these questions have been updated, I will be discussing them one by one. So yes, the panelists have updated it. So let me start off. So my first question is, I do not want to track the location of devices. However, I want to secure them using lost mode. If the device gets lost, is this possible? Yes, we can choose to locate a device only when it is being lost, since in some countries, it is considered as a violation of their privacy when we get their location details. So for that, we need to go to inventory, and under geo-tracking, make a few settings. So when we go to geo-tracking, under track devices, we can choose to enable when lost. So what this does is when a device is being put into lost mode, only then will this device's location get tracked. Otherwise, we will not have any information about the location of this particular device. So once I click Save Changes, this will get applied and I can track the devices. So my next question, we are a logistics company and we provide devices to our drivers for tracking purposes. Is there a way by which the users cannot disable the location services and it is always enabled? Yes, we can do that as well. So for that, we need to create a profile on device management. So under profiles, click on create profiles and create an Android profile. So here I will be giving the location, the name as location. And here I will go to restriction and click on application. Here what I will do, I will go to location services and choose to the GPS to be always on. So once this is done, this will ensure that the GPS is always turned on the devices. And if the GPS is turned on, we can always get the location and track the devices that we want. So once we click on publish, whereas in the case of iOS devices, these settings need to be performed on the devices before we distribute it to them. So my next question, is it possible to prevent copying text from emails? So for copying text from anywhere, we need access to the clipboard functionality in Android devices. This functionality has been by default disabled for Android 5.0 and plus devices. Whereas in the case of iOS devices, this functionality is not supported by Apple as of yet. So my next question is, I want to ensure that the IT approved apps installed using MDM must not be removed by the users. Is it possible? Yes, I can do that. So we go and create a profile for this as well. So I will create an Android profile and I will click on and provide a name for this. So once I have done that, I will go to restrictions and application. So here also I will choose to click on restrict the uninstall application option. Once I have done that, the user will not be able to uninstall any applications from his devices. So I will click save and publish it. Similarly, this can be done for an iOS devices as well. So my next question is, I want only the devices of the sales department to be tracked and not any other department. Is it possible? Yes, we can choose to do that as well. So for that, again, we need to make a few settings to the geo tracking option. So I go to inventory and click on geo tracking. So here I will enable the option as always, and this option apply geo tracking for. Here we can either choose to apply the tracking to all the devices that are present in my organization, or I can do it to selected groups. So these groups have the devices based on the organization. So in case here, as the question had asked me for sales department, I have a department with name sales and a few devices in it. So once I click select, only the devices that are present in this particular group will get tracked. So I will click save changes. So once this is applied, only these devices will get tracked and the other devices will not be tracked. So this brings us to the end of the training program. I hope it has been beneficial to you. I would like you to rate us on a scale of 1 to 10, where 5 is the best. So we also request you to spread the word about our training program on social media platforms. So our next training is scheduled on June 1st and the June 8th of 2017, the same time. In addition to this, for better understanding on device management, we have a free ebook titled as Managing and Securing Devices for Dummies. You can download it from our website. We will also be sending you the link on our email. Thank you and hope you have a nice day.